And we're looking good, you'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United. Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good, and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you play.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, a podcast focusing on the trials and tribulations of Carlisle United Football Club. From Michael Rains to Adam Rundle and Don O'Riordan to Gordon Owen, we've got it covered.
I've just got to cut in here. The chant, "Let's get ready to Rundle," was possibly one of the worst I have ever heard at any Carlisle United match ever. Carry on.
Former Sampdoria target Adam Rundle there, remember?
Yes.
Well, let's change things up then. That's one of my co-hosts in today's episode. Dan, how are you going?
Yeah, not bad, mate.
Good stuff. Yeah, so today, obviously, it's episode 27. We're going to be reviewing the dominant performance in United's 4-0 win over Stevenage, looking ahead to the midweek clash against an improving Mansfield side, and also a bit of news and looking at what ex-United players have been getting up to. As I've already said, I'm joined by Dan on this episode. Dan, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm possibly the only Carlisle fan who was a bit disappointed on Saturday, and the only reason is I thought we should have had 5, 6, maybe even 7, to be quite honest.
That's literally the only complaint I could get from the game. It's really nitpicking, but a couple of times you think to yourself, second half, just have a go with them. But at the same time, if we'd had a bit of go with them, we might have been in a bit of trouble if we got a bit too close to them, wouldn't we? So we'll come to that in a minute.
More on that to come.
Yes, indeed. Let's get straight into the news then, because we've got a packed episode. We've got lots of Mansfield Town to come up. I've done plenty of research on them for this episode.
Weirder.
I know, a bit weird, isn't it? Okay, so a bit of a news roundup. So a bit of news about a trialist from the Northern League, Dan. It's set for a reserves run out potentially this week, weather permitting. So United's reserves are due to face Fleetwood in the Central League Cup on Wednesday at Penrith. That's at Frenchfield, isn't it, Dan?
But Penrith have said today that there is standing water at the moment, so it's 50-50.
You'd imagine surely they'd be able to switch that to Brunton Park at the last minute if they really needed to. Sure.
I wonder if it depends how tight the schedule has to be for that comp.
Strange one, that, isn't it, really? But yeah, so they're due to play at Penrith on Wednesday, and alongside the players who have not really been getting much game time at the moment, players on the bench like Max Hunt and Jack Armour, people like that. One player who could feature for United is 22-year-old Hebburn striker Chedwin Scott. Now, Scott is a player who's been getting quite a few headlines recently, hasn't he, Dan? Particularly of his trial spell he had at Newcastle United.
Yeah, he scored a ridiculous amount of goals. I think it's something like about 24 goals in 15 games or something for Hebburn Town, and his form alerted Newcastle, according to the North East Press, and seemingly he's had a couple of weeks on trial there. And I think what I read when I looked into it was the only reason they haven't took him on is they don't think at 22 he would maybe make it to the level Newcastle need. Now, that's not to say he couldn't do it in League 1 or 2, maybe even the Championship.
He's got some quite glowing references, didn't he, really, for the way he performed while he was on trial there. And they seem to be saying to him almost like, you're a good player, go and get yourself a Football League club and prove us wrong almost. We just don't think... I think you're right, the age thing is the difference. If he's been like 3 years ago, he might have got
if he was 18, 19, he'd maybe have got a chance, with under 23s and a couple of loans and that.
Yeah, he's got an interesting background, though, hasn't he? Because he's not like a Stephen Riggersy who's just coming to the Northern League and is only playing at that level. So yeah, he began his career at Huddersfield Town in their academy, and obviously I think I don't think they have the same sort of style of academy there now, do they? I think they got rid of their sort of underage.
No, there was some. I think a couple of years ago under EPPP, they were just like, what is the point? And that this is obviously for another time, but they basically went, we've got plenty of clubs we can pick up off from around here, Leeds and Manchester clubs, why bother? Which you can understand.
Yeah, so I think he spent 4 years in their academy, but he left without making a first team appearance. His first move after leaving West Yorkshire was to Dundee United. It's quite an interesting one, that wasn't
It's
it? Really?
it's not a normal sort of
No.
move, is it?
But it suggests he has a bit of ability because they obviously scouted him and felt he was worth the move.
Yeah.
He made 3 appearances in the SPL for them actually, and then one. I think it was in the Tunnocks Challenge Cup or whatever it's called for their under 23s. So he had loan spells at Berwick Rangers where he did quite well. I think he got 4 goals in 7 games, and then another one at Arbroath where he didn't manage to score while he was there. He ended up leaving Dundee United and moving back to his native northeast because he's from Hexham originally. So about as local as you can get, really, isn't he, without being in Cumbria?
I think he still is Hexham area from that. That seemed to be the suggestion in the.
Well, Beech seems to be suggesting that could play into our advantage in terms of what we can
because
offer him as well.
I would imagine we'll have a couple come over from that way. Obviously, John Mellish and Farman.
Yeah.
So that would be a car school, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So first he moved to Dunstan UTS. I love all the names of the teams out in the North East. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Which is right next door to the Metro Centre. Not many people realise that.
I didn't realise that. Oh, that's interesting. That. And then obviously onto his current club, Hebburn. So be interested to see how he does. But I mean, imagine one. It's similar to sort of Stephen Rigg, isn't it? If he comes in, scores goals, does well, he's not going to be a massively expensive contract, and he could prove to be a hell of a good signing, really, if you can find the back of the net regularly.
And he wouldn't be the first Carlisle player to come from a team from Hebburn.
Ooh, go on.
Graham Anthony did play for Hebburn Railroll, who I think don't exist now. But,
another terrific name for a team, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
We'll get on some great team names when we talk about Mansfield Town's history in a minute.
Yeah.
Some belters in there. So, good luck to Shedwin. Hopefully he'll do well in that reserve game. You never know. He might end up being a new signing for the squad. Couple of a little bit here, Dan. So, this just one quickly to cover. It's looking likely, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet, but Cumbria looks like it's going to stay in Tier 2 of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I saw this browsing the news today, and our local MP, John Stevenson, and I think sort of the key health officials in the area are suggesting that we're likely to remain in Tier 2 for the Christmas and New Year period.
Yeah,
we could possibly drop down, but given that the likes of London are now in Tier 3, could we end up in another lockdown?
Possibly. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Right? Yeah. And the suggestion I seem to have seen is that Barrow, as usual, is dragging the county down. Their figures seem to be a lot worse than West Cumbria.
COVID, football,
everything. Just relentless, isn't it? The way they drag
shit
the county
on the
down.
shoe.
Yep. Next little bit here. So obviously, if we do move to Tier 1, potentially we could have crowds of 4,000, which is not far off our average, really, is it? So it's one of those ones, isn't it? We'll have to wait and see. Next bit, this is just a nice little bit I saw on the official website today. Is so Joe Thompson returned to Brunton Park last week to give a talk to United's under-18 squad. Those who don't remember, a fairly recent player for us, so should be able to remember. Midfielder Joe Thompson, he signed for us in, I think, was it 2015?
I was going to say about 15-ish, yeah.
So Thompson's had a interesting career, to say the least, hasn't he? So he actually, interesting fact, he made his debut for Rochdale in the game where United pretty much won the League 2 title in 2006. He came on as a 16-year-old. I think he was their youngest ever player at that point, possibly, or one of the youngest players to play.
I was going to say they've had quite a few young players in the last few years, haven't they?
Well, what's his name? Who's gone to Wolves? I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Thompson made his debut in that game. But yeah, so he's battled back against cancer twice in his career and come back and played twice, which is quite astonishing, really, when you think about it. But one of the times he came back, I don't think we were his first club. I think we were his second club back after the first time he battled back from cancer, weren't we? And I think he had a 1 year deal. He only really featured generally off the bench, but I think he's always been very grateful for the fact that the club gave him a chance and a chance to get himself back up to speed and show what he can do. And from there, he actually managed to earn himself a move back to Rochdale at one point. And I think famously, when he came back from cancer the second time with Rochdale, I remember him scoring a goal on his comeback, and he was just mobbed by his teammates. I remember that. It was quite an emotional scenes. But yeah, he came up and basically gave our under-18 squad a sort of talk about life generally and overcoming adversity and planning for your life beyond football and things like that. And from what Eric Kinder was saying and Chris Beech been saying, that the young lads really took it in well. I mean, it's the day after they got beat in the FA Youth Cup. We didn't actually mention that last week, did we? But really unlucky by the sounds of things in that game. They should have won it in the second half, but they had a few cleared off the line. So So just a nice little thing for the young lads there, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't get to see this youth game. I was working when it was on.
Busy
But
as well.
by the sounds of it, we gave a good account against a Blackburn team. And Blackburn are one of those academies that seem to be
Shared out
quite
places
well
fun,
run,
aren't they?
and the probably a standard bearer to measure up against. So.
Yeah. Young Sam Fishburn's in decent form, isn't he? He scored 4 goals the other day.
Yeah,
I think.
scored
So
4 in a match recently.
Ever since Beech has just started saying how much he quite likes him. So
Yeah.
you'd imagine he's pushing himself towards getting a contract the way he's playing, isn't he? So
You would think so, yeah.
anyone who scores goals for fun at our level, youth level, generally gets a contract.
They're worth a look, aren't they?
Exactly. Obviously, we'll be talking about one of those who got a contract but didn't really do that well, won't we? Later. Okay, let's get on to the match review then, Dan. So let's talk about the weekend game. So it's Carlisle United 4, Stevenage 0. Goals from Anderton, Coyote, Alessandra and Riley. Gave us a pretty comprehensive win. It's now 8 wins out of 9 at home in the league this season for United, as they made just easy work of brushing aside a dreadful Stevenage side at Brunton Park, weren't they?
Yeah, I think the first goal, if you look on the club Twitter, they've put the GoPro footage up.
Yeah.
It's a terrible mistake from their keeper.
He just goes out
He
yard too far, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he just seems to almost scoop it in, you know. And
Absolutely typical if I bigged him up in the big match preview for the last one.
yeah, I mean, that puts them on the back foot. And then when Coyote 10 minutes later gets his head on the cross, you know, that was game over, you know.
Yeah.
And pushing on and getting the third just after the half hour.
Made the rest of the game comfortable, didn't it? Really,
Yeah,
we didn't really have to get out.
very comfortable. Yeah,
We barely had to get out of first gear really to beat
and
them. It was-
Stevenage looked a beaten team come the second half, didn't they?
Yeah.
I thought they were going through the motions, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean the stats were comfortably United's favour, and a true reflection of the dominance against the side. I mean, they really do look like one that needs put out of its misery, doesn't it? From last season, they look like a side who hasn't really had a chance to put a decent squad together. I mean, that going into the game, the record wasn't particularly terrible, was it? I think I know they're down at the bottom, but
They've actually got 1 or 2 decent players.
yeah,
You know, I mean, I know he got sent off on Saturday, Luke Prosser, but he's a solid League 2 central defender. Romain Vince a lot. He's one of those who, if he's in the mood, can take a game by the scruff of the neck. But,
and they were missing Scott Cuthbert, who's their captain and a big player for them as well.
yeah,
so.
big player. Yeah, but as bad as they were, can you see them going down ahead of, say, Southend and Barrow?
I mean, Southend got a good result at the weekend, to be fair, to give them a bit of a... I mean, and they're still way off the pace, and they probably still will go down.
I think they're still 4 points off, aren't they?
Barrow massively depends on who they appoint. And as someone was pointing out to me at the weekend, Barrow's big issue is the fact that Bradford have got rid of their manager at the same time.
Yeah.
So they're almost... Most half-decent managers at this level are going to be waiting to see whether they get the Bradford job before they go for Barrow.
I wonder if Bradford getting rid of their manager sort of pushed Barrow into making the decision.
Yeah, but like I said, it puts them in a difficult position because Barrow... Every manager's going to prefer the Bradford job over Barrow any day.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
And if you read the Barrow forum, some of the names their fans were coming up with were make our fans look rational, quite frankly. The Cowley brothers was one name I mentioned.
Paul Cook was another.
Just astonishing, isn't it?
I mean, they're people who are going sort of top half of League One Championship, possibly, you know.
Comfortably, both of those, comfortably. So that result means we've moved up to third place in League 2 on goal difference. Level on 32 points with fourth place Forest Green Rovers, but with a plus 10 goal difference and having scored more goals as well, compared to Forest Green's plus 9. Newport's defeat in Leyton Orient means that we are now just 4 points off top spot and 1 point behind second place Cheltenham, who drew 0-0 with Salford City. So let's get on to the main talking points then, Dan. And the first one I've got here is the stats that matter. So we already mentioned there, the stats show that United dominated this game with the exception of possession, which was slightly in Stevenage's favour. They had 54% compared to 46% for us. But you've pointed out to me earlier that we retweeted someone on the Cumbrians.net Twitter the other day, didn't we, about the fact that we are winning the ball back. But our players basically are in, I think, 4 of the top 8 or something.
Yeah, 4 of the top 7 in League 2 intercepting players. I think George Tanner was leading it. Callum Guy, Nick Anderton. I can't remember the fourth.
Aaron Hayden
Possibly Hayden.
Makes sense.
But, you know, for 4 players from one team to be in the top 7 is, you know, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, we win the ball back in the opposition half a lot of the time. Although you see, your defenders mostly in there, both Tanner and Anderton are winning it back on the halfway line, aren't they? They're pressing forward.
They're pushing up that much, aren't they?
And even Hayden's nipping in right on the halfway line as well to get the ball a lot of the time and bringing it forward. So
yeah, I think with Hayden and Bennett, they sort of know when one can push up and the other can drop in, you know.
Yeah, definitely. The stat that stands out for Stevenage, though, is that they managed just one shot in the whole game. And it was funny, one of their fans tweeted a video of it, and it literally was a volley from 25 yards that pretty much hit the top of the Warwick Road and roofed, and it was
they
were just awful. They offered
they had one cornered as well. You know, that's
I think we could
tells you a lot.
We could happily change Paul Farman's kit to the deck chair kit for the rest of the season, because that's what he's pretty much going to be doing, sitting out and putting a deck chair out if games go like that again.
Yeah.
It was just far too easy for him, and you know, we're continuing to bombard teams into submission at the moment, aren't we? And long may it continue. It really is quite pleasing to see. All right, next one, in the nick of time. So I think it's fair to say in recent episodes we might have suggested that at the start 11 right now, Nick Anderton's probably the player that's, I wouldn't say the weakest link, but not quite at the same level as the rest of the team. And that's not a criticism of him and his performances. He's still playing okay. We just felt that if you were going to take anyone out of the team right now, it probably would be him potentially, wouldn't it? But that really changed on the side. He put a real captain's performance in, didn't he? He was a bit lucky with the goal, but his endeavour up and down the left flank to support Patrick showed his confidence is really starting to grow and get to sort of the same level of the rest of the team, isn't it? Yeah,
it was a marked improvement on the last 2 or 3 games, and as we say, he certainly hasn't been terrible by any account. You know, he's just, compared to say Tanner on the right, you know, he's not been quite at the same level, and no, he was very impressive. I mean, I was in the Warwick Road end at the side that Anderton comes down, and there was some nice little bits between him and Patrick.
Yeah, and the thing is he's not going to be the same as Tanner, is he? Because Tanner's fairly pacey, isn't he? And he's got a bit of skill about him, and he'll take on players. Anderton, his delivery's still not quite up to it, I think the problem with Anderton is we've had such a good left back in terms of delivery in Granger for a few years that we got used to a left back being able to put crossing like that.
Granger's going to be the yardstick, isn't he?
He's not going to be as good as that, because Granger, if Granger had any pace about him, he wouldn't have played at our level, would he? He hadn't had injury problems. He'd have played at a higher level. He'd have been consistently playing the SPL for Hearts, probably. So, you know, you've got to be fair on Anderson. And like I said, he looked much better at the weekend, and hopefully that's a sign of what's to come for him in upcoming games. Next up, all Riley'd up. I'm sure you'll like that title there, Dan. It's a terrible one, I know. After a couple of performances were a little bit underwhelming, Joe Riley was dropped recently, wasn't he? And I don't think he was awful, but he just wasn't quite playing at the same level again that Mellish and Guy were in midfield, was he? So Beech decided to give his fellow Bradford recruit, Danny Devine, a chance to show what he could do. And he's really come into his own, hasn't he, since coming to start 11? Has not looked out of place at all. But Riley showed just how much he's chomping at the bit, didn't he, at the weekend with his performance after coming on. And scoring, I mean, pretty much 2 minutes after, one of his first touches, wasn't he? It was his first professional goal. And what a volley that was as well. To take that left-footed first time was just outstanding.
And something you noticed about this goal.
Well, I think a few of us noticed this, but it was the great thing is with only 2,000 there, you can still hear a few little things, and you probably could hear this even with a normal crowd. Although I'd imagine that would have been quite buoyant if you'd had a good 4,000 or 5,000 in there for this game. But before the throw-in was taken, Anderton was moving to go forward, and Riley was sitting back, and Chris Beech just bellowed across to them. He just like, Nick, you get back, Joe, get in the box, you get in there. And what do you know? Ball fell to Riley, and he hammered it into the back of the net. He couldn't have looked happier, Chris Beech, with that. He sort of had this sort of like slightly sheepish, but slightly like, yep, got that one right, didn't I? Sort of look on his face, and just sometimes those little things pay off. But I have to say, even taking away his goal, I thought Riley was so impressive when he came on. He really looked a little bit more driven, like he was out there to prove a point. And someone made a good point actually on Twitter. So this, in fact, I think it was like a Manchester United fan website, something talking about ex-players and what they're up to, they mentioned about his goal. He's made more appearances this season than he did in his whole 2 years at Bradford City. That shows the difference. You forget he's come back from a bad injury as well. So
yeah.
It just shows how good he's been. And I think he could be a really good player for us, couldn't he?
No, he's, it's good to have options. I mean, on a slightly different note, we had Dean Furman on the bench this week, dropped because Guy was back. He was in the EFL team of the week last weekend, and he didn't come off the bench this week.
Yeah, and yet Guy was in the EFL team of the week this weekend.
Yeah. So it's good to have the options, and we can chop and change because, as we've said, Mellish is walking the yellow card tightrope, so he may. Although we found out that the window changes soon, doesn't it?
We've got 2 more games left, so after the Forest Green game, that it then jumps to 10 cards for your next suspension. So, hopefully him and Anderton can hold on for those 2 games. Sorry, was it him and Hayden? I got this wrong last time and I can't even remember now, for God's sake.
Shocking research.
One of the 2 anyway. Whichever other one is, I think it is Anderton, walking the tightrope.
Yeah.
And they've got a couple of games to hold on for.
Yeah. The next 2, we've had mentions for them, but these are things that we've sort of penciled in for over the Christmas period to look in more depth going into January. And it would maybe do us after the Walsall game on the 2nd. We could maybe do a little special, sort of like a halfway report. Yeah.
So the next one's sort of the contract sagas or contract decisions. So we will be taking a good, more in-depth look at this soon. Like I said, possibly before the Christmas games, possibly after the New Year. Not sure, because we're going to, like we said before, we're going to combine the Christmas preview for the Bolton and Harrogate games, just because we just won't have time to record between the Bolton and the Harrogate game. Just
too busy drinking and eating and stuff.
Eating turkey sandwiches and stuff like that.
I don't eat turkey sandwiches.
Do you not?
No.
Okay.
Not after Christmas. I'll have them before Christmas, but not after Christmas.
Weird. Anyway, but we will talk about 2 of the contract issues. I mean, obvious ones, aren't they? And the first one to start with, we've been banging on about this one for weeks, but Rhys Bennett, surely the club are still, I mean, I imagine they are, and it's just, crossing T's and dotting I's, whatever, and surely they've got to get him signed up for the rest of the season at least.
You would think so. I mean, I was looking on his, I think it was his Instagram at the weekend, and the players post pictures up of celebrations, and I think he'd put something like "my guys" or something, and surely some words have been said already. I mean, we already know the relationship between Bennett and Beech, and Bennett's been round the block. He must know when a team's on a good thing, and even if he only stayed for this season, he must know he's got a chance of putting a promotion on his CV.
Oh, absolutely. That would be a big thing. I don't think he's got one today, has he? I don't think, because he's only been at Rochdale, Mansfield and Bolton, so I don't think he'd have won promotion at any of them, I don't think.
And Peterborough, wasn't it?
Peterborough, sorry. Yes, Peterborough. Yeah. And I don't think... Well, Peterborough just sort of been stuck in League One for a few years now, haven't they?
Yeah.
So, that'll be an issue. It's interesting you notice that about the whole My Guys thing and post that thing. It's good to note this season how good the morale is between the players and how close they all seem. And after games, they're all posting pictures up saying, "Oh, what a great bunch of lads to play for." And they all say, even like Coyote, he's only on loan, but it almost seems like he feels like he's part of the club, doesn't he? Really, he doesn't feel like he's a loan player the way he acts. It is really refreshing to see, because we know there was some issues last season, wasn't there? And some players just. I mean, we obviously know the obvious one in McCurdy, but I think we both know, don't we, Dan, that there's a couple more in there who were not really fully signed up to it, were they? Let's just say that way.
It certainly wasn't harmonious at times, was it?
No, definitely not. And it's night and day this season, the way things are. The other contract, and this is one we haven't mentioned as much, but I think it is probably just as, if not more important. Well, Chris Beech and his coaching staff, their contract runs out next summer. That's got to be getting looked at as well soon, surely. You don't want to lose him for not much money, and he seems quite happy and settled here. Get him signed up for next season at the very least, and then you've got a bit of stability, and those players also feel a bit more stabilised, won't they?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, could it be a case of let's get January out of the way, see what moves happen, and then sit down with him?
You'd hope so. You'd hope so, but it's one of those ones. I don't imagine he's desperate to get away or move anywhere else at the moment. He knows how well looked after he's been at this club and how settled things now seem to be. So you'd hope that it's just a case of, like I said, maybe you're right. Maybe they are just saying, look, he's saying, I'm comfortable. I'm not going to be going anywhere. Let's just get January out of the way. Then we'll get a new deal sorted and see where we go from there. But yeah, thanks. I think there's a few people that sent that one. Simon Clarkson, he's one of the ones who posted that in the Be Just and Fear group. So thanks to him for that. January reinforcements. So we've had this one from our old pal John McGee on Twitter asked this one. So it's a similar sort of note to the contract. So do United need to make any additions to their squad in the January transfer window to keep up in the promotion race? Now, will losing a key player like sort of Wyke a few years ago be a disaster this time round? I'm not convinced it will. I think we spread it out so much across the team and players have dropped in. I think we're all right for that.
Yeah,
2 or 3 players going maybe, but 1, not really.
I would say the comparison here goes back to the mid-90s. When 94-95, when we won the league,
lost Simon Dairy.
But if someone had came in for David Reeves, we would have struggled.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 years later, 96-97, the goals were just spread around that team.
Yeah.
And losing one of those players wouldn't have affected them as much. I think it's quite similar to that.
It's a good comparison, to be fair. I'd agree with that. I think, obviously, the most recent comparison for some of our younger fans might understand is, obviously, Charlie White going in 16-17, was it? God, I can't remember now. It's not that long ago, but it seems so long ago.
Yeah.
When he went, that just killed us, didn't it? Because Proctor came in and wasn't up to the same speed. Good player, but just wasn't the same sort of player, was he?
Well, he was coming back from injury, wasn't he? So.
Yeah. It wasn't really the right side. Good player, just not the right signing at that time. And also with Jabbo out injured as well, just didn't help things either. I think I don't think we desperately need to make a lot of signings. I think get Bennett tied down, and then you've got Dickinson and Walker to come back, haven't you, as well? They're going to be like 2 fresh players, really.
I also think as well, because of the COVID situation, not many teams will be active as much.
Yeah.
Because they don't know the financial situation. If, as we mentioned earlier, if there is a chance of more lockdowns, teams won't want to be seen. And also with the money from the EFL, the Premier League bailout, they're going to be monitored if they do splash out. So it could be sort of the perfect storm for us,
Yeah, it could. It could indeed. And
it may be the summer before we actually see moves for some of our players.
Possibly. I think you look at in attack, like I said, we've got Walker and Dickinson to come in, and then we look incredibly well stocked there. You'd imagine Obiero is going to go back to Huddersfield. I can't see that being extended. Similar with Mali, I think.
Obiero and Mali, and possibly even Dewhurst. I would imagine
Sheffield United wanting to get games.
They're wanting to get more games, won't they?
Yeah.
So that's free. We'll maybe see Taylor Charters go out on loan because Dixon's up and running again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If Bennett does stay, maybe Max Hunt would maybe go somewhere for a few games.
Possibly, but I mean, it just shows you we are well stocked in a lot of areas actually this season. We're not in a bad position, and like I said, attacker particularly, even though we haven't got an out and out 20-goal a season striker, we've got so many players ready to come in and perform. And you look at Gimme Toure, he's on the bench at the moment. He's still pretty much topping some of the stats for dribbles this season, even though he's maybe not played a full 90 minutes for about a month and a half. It's incredible, really, when you look back at it. Yes, I think, John, our thoughts are is that no, I don't think it's a problem. Mark Whitfield asked a sort of similar-ish question to this. He asked, would losing a key player or the manager be the biggest blow right now? I don't think either of us would disagree with this. Manager. If we lost the manager right now, you've got a team there that knows what the manager wants and knows the way he wants them to play. I think it'd be difficult for another manager to come in, a la the way Presley came in to replace Sheridan, and stamp their own game on them would be tough because this team's so well drilled now. They know how to play. So I think I'd argue if we lost Coyote, it'd be disappointing, but we've got other players who can come in and do jobs. If we lost Beech, I think then we might have a bit of a tough job on our hands to keep ourselves up there. It'd be sort of almost like pot luck, really, wouldn't it? In terms of who replaces him. So yeah, that's our thoughts now. Thanks everyone for sending in a few of those in. Really do appreciate it. That's it for talking about the Stevenage game, isn't it, Dan? Just all round.
Yeah.
Good, comprehensive performance.
Yeah.
We just want to see even more goals. We want to get up to the 5s and the 6s, don't we? That's what we want.
Too right.
In the coming weeks. Okay, then that's the end of part 1. So up after the break, we're going to look ahead to the midweek fixture against, I think it's fair to say, an improving Mansfield town side at Brunton Park. Back in just a sec. Okay, welcome back everyone, and we're to part 2 now. We're looking ahead to another midweek clash under the Brunton Park lights. I always love the games under the lights at Brunton Park, don't you, Dan? It's always a
can't beat walking down on the cold winter's night with the floodlights coming into view.
So this time it's Mansfield Town of the visitors. Now, they're another side that have been struggling down near the bottom this season, but one that I think we both agree are going to provide a much sterner test than Stevenage, particularly after their recent change of manager and the resulting upturn in form that they've seen as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to have a sterner test than Saturday, to be honest.
No.
But
But I think we both expected Stevenage to provide actually a difficult-ish test. Certainly one tougher than Southend offered, towards the start of the season. But Southend actually probably played better than Stevenage, which is, we never thought we'd see that this season, did we? So it's a midweek game. I've got the wrong date in here, Dan. I've just looked at the running order.
Oh, shocking.
Absolutely shocking preparation.
Tuesday the 15th.
Exactly. Tuesday the 15th. It's 7 o'clock kickoff. Remember that? It's the last one we think that's going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff.
This one was already agreed before the sudden announcement that fans could return.
Yep. Referee's going to be Peter Wright. It's not Peter Snakebite Wright, the darts player.
No.
It'd be amazing. What if you turned
good
up
to
and
see
it
a
was.
referee. Be good to see a referee with that sort of hairstyle. It'd be amazing.
It'd be incredible, wouldn't it? When he comes out to a bit of a what's his name? Who does he come out to again? Mr. Worldwide. I can't remember his name now.
Oh yeah. I know.
Pitbull. Pitbull.
Yeah.
He came out a bit of Pitbull onto the pitch. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it?
I actually know a lad who's a big Peter Wright fan, and he has all the trousers when he goes to watch the darts.
That's incredible. Amazing. So last game he actually refereed. This is the extra bit we're going to start dropping in now. Last game he refereed was the 1-0 defeat at Scunthorpe this season. I've had a look back at other games he's refereed with. Nothing particularly controversial though, which is usually a good sign, but you never know really. They've got to make a name for themselves at some point, haven't they? That's the problem. Okay, Dan, so let's get on then to the usual history and facts, looking at a bit of a background on Mansfield Town that fans might not know about. So there's no exact date when Mansfield Town were formed, but it's known that a meeting to form the club took place sometime in 1897 at the Wesleyan Church on Bridge Street in Mansfield. The original club was actually called Mansfield Wesleyan and eventually became Mansfield Town some years later. We'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. So in the summer of 1906, when the Mansfield and something District League or whatever it's called, I think it's Mansfield and District Amateur League it was, they dropped amateur from their title, and the hierarchy at the Methodists immediately disowned the football club and forbade them from calling themselves Wesleyans.
I bet there was uproar at the time.
Imagine, there's an even better one in a minute in terms of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So as a result, the club changed its name to Mansfield Wesley. That's just lazy.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just slob the N off the end. That's fine.
We'll save a couple of pence on stitching.
Exactly. So basically, they moved, I think, to sort of like a higher sort of local district league at that point. In 1908 and 09 season, there was trouble off the pitch as two of the club's founding members, Chairman Fred Abraham and Secretary James Marples, both resigned. Now, they were both banned sin die, so basically indefinitely.
For life,
by the FA for serious irregularities. It turned out they had signed a player on the Sabbath, the day of rest, which was considered quite a heinous crime back then, apparently.
Shocking. Send them to the stocks.
Exactly. It's incredible, isn't it? Apparently the player himself wasn't banned. He was allowed to carry on playing, so interesting that. In 1910, the club's AGM held a vote to change the team's name to either Mansfield Town or Mansfield United. to befit the club's future aims. The town's premier team at the time, Mansfield Mechanics, objected to this, but objected to the change, but their protest was ignored by the FA. It just seems ridiculous, doesn't it? People, how dare they call themselves that?
How dare they?
It's like, well, why don't you change your name to Mansfield Town? Oh, we're all right. Call ourselves Mechanics.
Well, the Mechanics. We fix it, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. The club's ground, Field Mill, is believed to be the oldest continuous in-use football ground in the Football League, having been used for football since 1861. There's some reports it might have been used since 1850. It's that old. It's also been used for cricket in the past as well. I think it's built almost like on an old quarry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's on Quarry Lane anyway. It's up a massive hill. I remember that. It's just a pain in the ass to get to. So it was previously home to their early rivals, the Mechanics, and prior to that, Mansfield Marksmen. What a brilliant name that is for a team. But they were kicked out after failing to keep up their rent during the First World War.
Were the Marksmen often on target? Oh, that's shocking.
Sorry. I'm going to have to... Hang on. There you go. I can give you that one. I wouldn't give Mike that. Mike would get tumbleweed for that one. And the Stags have basically played there ever since in 1919. I think they bought the ground a few years later, but the guarantee was that they were only allowed to have sports played there. It was the Duke of something owned the ground and he sold it to them. So they first joined the Football League back in 1932, and they had quite a few failed attempts in the 1920s to join the Football League. But they had a sort of... I think that basically they weren't earning favour with the northern clubs for some reason. So they switched tack, and to get the support of the northern clubs, they applied to join the southern section instead of the third division. And I think the season that they got in, there was 3 clubs up for election for 2 places. One of them was Norwich City, I think, who were in the lowest level at that point. They won the most votes. But then second was Mansfield Town, and the third was an existing club, Newport County, who I think missed out on a place in the league, and Mansfield got their place in 1932. They only had 1 season in the southern section, then switched to the northern section anyway, to replace Wigan Borough, who'd gone out of business. Traditionally known these days for their colours of yellow or amber and blue, but they've had a number of different kit combinations down the years, haven't they, Dan? I mean,
yeah, they've had quite
a mix, isn't it? So they
had red shirts with white shorts, black and white quarters with black shorts, sky blue shirt with white shorts, all blue, white shirt with black shorts, and they also had this wonderful sort of sky blue and chocolate brown effort.
I think they had that as their centenary kit as well in the late 80s. I think I've seen footage of us playing against them with that kit on as well.
They've
had quite... The thing is, these aren't even just like kits going back to like the early 1900s or anything like that. Some of these were in like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
They haven't only settled on their colour of kit really in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Really, when you look back at it, it's quite incredible. They've only ever won the 2 Football League titles, I think, in their history. So that was the 3rd division in 76-77 and the 4th division in 74-75. Their 77-year run in the Football League came to an end in 2008 as they were relegated to the conference. They took 5 years to win promotion back to the league. One of their managers during this time was a certain Mr. David Holsworth, wasn't it? And when I was doing the research for this, I mix it up really. I sort of look at the club's official website, look at like unofficial websites, also have a little look at Wikipedia, also checking that there's references there. The bit about David Holsworth's time at Mansfield Town, it's very, very complimentary, to say the least, but there's not many references there. I'm not casting any aspersions there. I'm just saying
they maybe appreciate a good roll neck sweater.
Maybe they do. But yeah, let's just say they're very complimentary about how good his playing style was, without having any references to any match reports or any sort of things saying that. So make of that what you will.
Yeah.
Celeb fans.
Unsurprisingly, celeb fans, Mansfield isn't a hotbed, but the 2 they do have are pretty well known. Olympic gold medal winning swimmer Rebecca Adlington is from Mansfield, and I think she sort of goes when it's a big cup match. And then a second one, who a Google search did show him involved at the club, was the one and only Alvin Stardust.
Incredible, that one, isn't it? That's not quite as good as Half Man, Half Biscuit, but not a bad one. Not a bad one at all, really. I think he was born in London, but I think he moved to Mansfield as a kid, didn't he? And I think that's why he supports Mansfield, possibly.
Yeah. And a very random fact from back when I started going away, Mansfield was one of the biggest towns without a railway station.
It was, wasn't
And
it? They
it
reopened.
only got one about 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was a little bit longer than that because I remember going there in 2000.
Yeah, and it's just
six.
up the road from the ground now.
Yeah, I mean, you can, literally when you get to the station, don't you? You look across and you can see the stands because it's quite raised up the station, and then you look across almost like a valley, isn't it?
Yeah,
and you can see the ground there. So it's on the Robin Hood line, isn't it? That reopened, I think, about 20 years ago. Head-to-head record, one of those rare ones where we're slightly behind, aren't we? So not by much, no. We've won 31. There's been 18 draws, and Mansfield have won 32. Our recent record against them is pretty dreadful,
so good,
isn't
it? No,
just 3 wins out of the last 15 competitive fixtures. One of those was in the checker trade, so don't really want to count that.
Doesn't count.
But there you go. Last time we met, we played at quite an exciting 2-2 draw last season, didn't we? It was back in February, just before the lockdown, and Elliot Watts scored with basically was an overhit cross, wasn't it? Essentially, caught the keeper out, and then in the last minute of injury time, Joshua Coyote, got a very dramatic equaliser, didn't he? Sort of bundled it in. When you look at the view behind the goal, it looks like he might have handled it into the net, but who cares really? It was the best thing about that is his celebration and how much it meant to him as well. It was really great to see. Okay, well, let's get more up to date now, Dan. Let's talk about the current Stags team. So they've quite heavily invested in their squad recently, haven't they? Their owner has put a fair bit of money into them, but they've not really had much to show for it, have they? They've not really got anywhere close to sort of promotion.
No, John Radford's put a fair bit of money in, to be fair, and he hasn't really got a return for it, has he?
No.
I know his wife Caroline tends to make the headlines now and again, but between them they have invested a hell of a lot of time and money, and they've treaded water.
Yeah, I think one of the big issues they've had is they've been buying back the ground, haven't they, over the last 7 or 8 years, I think. Yeah. And I think they completed that last year, so that might have had a slight effect, I don't know. But expectations were still quite high for them this season, but they had a pretty disastrous start, didn't they, with Graham Coughlin in charge. I think I said this in the season preview, didn't I? I never quite understood why they appointed him as manager. He'd not really done anything at Bristol Rovers when you look back at it. And the suggestion was from some people that he only got the job because he was fairly local to Mansfield. That's where he lives these days. It was a strange one, wasn't it? It just didn't make any sense to give him the job, really. And when there was other better managers available, we'll obviously get on to who replaced him in a minute. I think we both agree a very good appointment for them. So I mean, until that change of manager, it was looking like they were potentially in danger of a return to the National League after just 7 years back. It would have been a bit of a disappointment for them, that. The format's picked up in the last month or so, though. We're seeing them sort of just slightly start to edge over, and not massively away, but they're starting to move in the right direction, aren't they? Away from sort of the 3 or 4 teams.
Tightening up, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I would say they're tightening up, and the manager's putting the basics into them, isn't he? Exactly that.
So obviously their form's picked up. They haven't been losing many games. Outside of the playoffs, only Walsall and Salford have got less defeats than them. And they've lost as many games as we have. 5 games.
Yeah.
The big difference is they're drawing loads of games. They can't win games. So they're currently 19th place on 16 points with a record of played 17, won 2, drawn 10, lost 5, with 18 goals for, 23 goals against, and a -5 goal difference. And they're currently just 3 points above second bottom Stevenage. But I mean, their recent upturn form definitely has helped a lot. They've lost just 1 of their last 6 games and are in 11th place in the form table with 2 wins, 3 draws, and 1 defeat in their last 6. That's good, solid form. And if they continue that form, they'll pull away from trouble. And I can't see them being in trouble at the end of the season with the players they've got.
They'll have enough to get into mid-table.
Yeah, definitely. The last time out, they drew 1-1 with fellow strugglers Grimsby. I mean, that's an important draw for them as well, because if they lose that game, they're suddenly dragged back into the trouble, aren't they, really?
Yeah, and Grimsby get ahead of them more,
Exactly. Their last win came 2 weeks ago, winning 1-0 at Cambridge United, who was just
That's a decent result, that, isn't it?
They are starting to drop down the table a little bit, though, Cambridge. That early run of form for Paul Mullins just starting to dry up a little bit, which is not helping them. They are through into the third round of the FA Cup after seeing off National League side Dagenham Redbridge in the second round. But, I mean, their rewards are about as rubbish as you can get, isn't it? They're a trip to Cheltenham Town, a team that don't lose many games. So
yeah.
Not a great one for them. Right, let's get on to the manager then. So, I mean, Nigel Clough, alongside Ian Holloway, probably the most impressive managerial appointment at this level for a while, you'd say?
Yeah, easily.
Definitely. I mean, Clough's father may be one of the most revered managers in English football, Brian, that is, of course. And if you don't know who he is, then God help you. But he's carved out a really good managerial career for himself, hasn't he, really, when you look at it? I mean, obviously, most of it's been at one club, the good stuff, but he did it. I think he did okay at Derby and Sheffield United as well when he was there. So he's probably best known for his work at Burton Albion, where he finished his career as a player after spells with Forest, Liverpool and Manchester City, as well as 14 caps for England. You forget that he was a pretty good footballer himself, wasn't he? And he sort of played as a forward, but I think he sort of dropped deeper to be a midfielder in his later years.
Yeah.
So he managed the Brewers for 11 years, from 1998 to 2009, before earning the chance to follow in his dad's footsteps at Derby County. And he left Burton. They were 13 points clear in the conference, weren't they? And I think they eventually went up to the league that season. Yeah. But they almost missed out, didn't they? I think they had a really rotten run in the last 3 or 4 games that nearly cost them a place, but they just about did it in the end. Didn't really work out for him at Pride Park, and he had another 2-year spell at Sheffield United after that. And then he returned to Burton. He wasn't too proud in that he wasn't saying, I can't go back there, I can't drop to that level. He dropped down to League One with them for a second spell. And he performed a minor miracle, didn't he? Getting them up to the Championship in second place from there. And then arguably even bigger miracle of keeping them in the Championship for 1 season, or 2 seasons, sorry.
Yeah.
Quite impressive. They eventually got relegated back down to League One. They got to the League Cup semi-finals in 2019, famously losing 10-0 to Manchester. I mean, I think many other teams would have lost that quite comfortably. The teams that City were putting out in those games, they were strong teams, weren't they?
Yeah.
He left the Brewers this summer, and it was quite decent what he did, wasn't it? He basically,
he basically stepped aside so that the tea lady and the cleaners could keep their jobs.
Yeah, essentially, because he was on a big wage, wasn't he? I think he at the back of his mind, he probably thought, "There's not much more I can do at Burton Albion, really." I've had pushing on 15 years here as a manager in the 2 spells,
and he knows he could have a year out, have a couple of years somewhere else, and he'll always get a job at Burton if he needs one and they need a manager.
Exactly that way. Well, he didn't take a couple of years, did he? He only had about 3 or 4 months out, and he's back in management in Mansfield. And like I said, I think it's probably the smartest appointment they've made for a while. I think all the other appointments they made, you look at them and you think, really? But I think they've finally got a man who knows this league, knows the football league, knows how to put a decent team together. And he had a reputation, didn't he, in the conference years? His team was called Burton Animals by a lot of people because they were pretty... I mean, people might say we're a physical side now, but they would basically just hack teams to bits a lot of the time. But they get results. And that was the key thing, wasn't it? Look at their squad then, Dan. So it's quite a stark contrast to Stevenage, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's plenty of quality in this squad. I've picked a few key ones out here. Obviously, Marek Steck, he's a good keeper at this level, isn't he?
Of course he is.
You know what you're getting with him. Ryan Sweeney went for big money from Wimbledon to Stoke City, I think it was, about 3 years ago. $250,000, something like that. Obviously, he's ended up back at this level, but he's a good player. I mean, in midfield, you've got Harry Charsley, who's a good creative player. James Perch has played at the highest level, doesn't he? Yep. And up front, you've got 3 forwards in Nicky Maynard, Jordan Bowery, and of course Andy Cook, who, they can get you goals.
Yeah. Cook being the one ex-Carlisle link.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's weird. He's one who they reckoned as a goal scorer. He was a better goal scorer than Gary Medine in the youth team.
Yeah.
But Gary had a bit more about his all-round game, and Gary had a bit more drive to get himself up to the right level of fitness and stuff like that. Andy
Cook just took his time to sort of...
I think Cook was a little less mature than Medina. People are going to be laughing when they hear those words. Someone who's less mature than Gary Medine, I know. But in terms of the way they...
Physicality and readiness,
And his attitude, he turned up for that. Because he had that 1 year as a professional, didn't he? And then he broke his ankle when he was on loan at Barrow. And it's not out of pity. I think the club were being fair to him and say, look, you haven't had a chance to do it. We'll give you another year to show what you can do. And he turned up to that pre-season overweight. And he was struggling to keep up with some of the older players. And even like Tony Cake and people like that, he was struggling to keep up with them in the pre-season runs. And I think at that point, that's the point when Greg was like, he's not going to make it with us right now. He just hasn't got the attitude. And he had to go to non-league, get his goals, show what he could do. And also he earned his move to Tranmere, didn't he? And he did really well with them. And I think he's still quite popular there. I think he had a loan spell back there at the end of last season, didn't quite work out again. But yeah, he's one that we're going to have to keep an eye on. I'd put money on him to score. I know we look better defensively, but you just know he's going to score, don't you?
Yeah.
Just the way it is. For us, we've got Rhys Bennett and Max Hunt, who had a spell as a youth player at Mansfield Town, and Bennett was there a few years ago, I think it was, wasn't it? So,
yeah. When we're just going to go on to team news now.
Yes.
The one you've forgotten to write down will be if George Tanner is all right after.
Yeah, it's good point actually. I completely forgot about that.
Last minute.
They don't seem to have said anything. Now that might just be Beech wanted to keep it quiet so that no one clicks on to the fact that he's going to be missing for this game, and Joe Riley can obviously slot in there if we need to. He's played right back before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good point. He would be a big miss if he wasn't available.
I'd be very surprised if he hadn't been for at least an X-ray to check it out.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But he didn't look totally uncomfortable. I think it was just a case if they were down to 10 anyway, it was injury time. There's no point in putting him back on just for the sake of it. Let's just take him off and we'll carry on with 10 men. And, the game was seen out, wasn't it? So, you mentioned there, George Tanner. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Rod McDonald, it sounds from what Beech is saying, he's pretty much available now. We might not risk him for this. We don't really need to, do we? That's the thing.
No, he would maybe be on the bench,
Yeah. Would you drop Hunt at the moment? Hunt can do a job and, possibly not. I don't know. So, hopefully he'll be back from his groin injury. Other than that, it's just Conor Malley, Brendan Dickinson and Ethan Walker all still out. And that's it, really, isn't it? So, it's looking good. Got pretty much a full squad there. Mansfield team news. Joe Riley looks set to miss out due to injury. No, you've not misheard me.
The other Joe Riley.
There's two Joe Rileys, isn't there? Well, this one started out at Bolton, didn't he? He's from Salford as well. Like, is Joe Riley from Salford as well? Our Joe Riley? I can't remember. But basically, they're both sort of Manchester lads, aren't they?
Yeah.
So he looks set to miss out due to injury. I think it's a long-term injury for them. They have been boosted by the news that winger Stephen McLaughlin has signed a new contract until the end of the season. I've got some more team news there because Mansfield Town, very kind of them, they've put their team news up just before we started recording on their website. So it looks like defender James Perch is going to be assessed leading up to the fixture. He's had a hamstring injury, and so he might miss out. That'd be quite positive for us.
Yeah.
Midfielder George Maris, they signed from Cambridge in the summer, and Nicky Maynard and Andy Cook are both likely to be in contention. I think they picked Knox at the weekend, but it looks like they're going to be involved. Come on then, Dan, let's have some predictions for this one.
After Saturday, I've got to go for a win. I'm going to go for 3-1.
Okay.
And I'll go for... I don't know who to go for. I'm going to say an Alessandra penalty. Amari Patrick is due a goal. And Dean Furman.
Oh, we think Dean Furman's going to come on and score.
Either come on or maybe even start, who knows. But
interesting.
A random one.
Interesting. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with 3-1 as well. I think it'll still be quite a tight game. I think we might not get the third till later on. But I'm going to go for 3-1. And I'm going to go for... I think Coyote's going to get another. I think Callum Guy's going to get a goal finally. And Rhys Bennett's going to get back on the score sheet. He's going to score against his former club. So there you go. Yeah. Coyote, Guy and Bennett. And Andy Cook's going to score for Mansfield, basically. That's just written in the stars, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the preview done then, Dan. Let's move on to the last section. That's the X-Files. So that's where we look at what ex-United players and coaches have been getting up to across the world in the last few days. Busy weekend again for goals, wasn't it?
Yeah, goals galore. Jamie Proctor scored for Newport. Charlie White got a couple more for Sunderland, who had an excellent win under the new manager.
He's doing really well, White, isn't he, this season?
I think he's scored 7 in 15, I think, in the league, and then a couple more in the cup.
A lot of their fans were quite negative towards him, saying he was useless and not up to much. And I know a lot of their fans are saying that about Danny Graham now. Apparently he's the one getting the stick. I mean, I'll be honest with you, if we get Danny Graham back on loan from them in January, probably take it. Good experience striker.
Rhys James scored for Doncaster, one who doesn't score many goals. Kyle Dempsey scored for Gillingham. He scored the other week as well, didn't he? So,
Dempsey, I keep forgetting, he's only 24.
Yeah,
he was 18, wasn't he, when he made first team appearance for us? And it was only 6 years ago he left. It seems so much longer, doesn't it? It's incredible.
And another of the regular features, Paddy Madden scored for Fleetwood.
If the day ends in a Y, he's probably scored.
Yeah. And then the main one, which I know there's been a bit of coverage of, Ryan Bowman got his second home hat-trick in a row in Exeter's 5-0 drubbing of Tranmere.
He's doing really well this season, isn't he, Ryan? It's nice to see, actually, because you quite often see these lads in our youth team who get their first year pro contract, maybe get 7 or 8 performances, then go away and sort of fade into obscurity with Workington and Penrith and teams like that.
Yeah,
he's really gone away and done it, hasn't he? And he's done the hard graft and earned his right.
Yeah, and he's really liked down at Exeter by all accounts. And the other one of note was a former fullback who's now at Barrow, Connor Brown, was sent off in their 4-2 defeat at Crawley. As we've mentioned, the result that cost David Dunn his job.
You know what? I saw the Quest highlights from this game, and it looked like his head was not in the right place, Brown. I think he win a penalty or something, or he was going to win a penalty or free kick at one point, and he proper lost his head about it, and he was going mad. That's before he got sent off, and I thought that was what I thought first when I saw that. I thought, oh, this is where he gets sent off, and I was like, oh no, it's not. So clearly he just wasn't stable in that game. I think so. Bit of a it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Barrow. I think someone messaged me the other day saying, really disappointed we're not playing Barrow in the next few weeks because we probably absolutely annihilate them. The sort of form they're on now. That's it, Dan. It's a busy episode, but I think we've covered all we can. So
your obsession with Mansfield facts.
It's one of those ones. Sometimes I get like a concise figure online that I can look for.
Yeah.
But I was picking up all these little bits from different places, and I thought, why not?
I don't think the Forest Green episode for the next one will be quite as comprehensive.
Well, it's going to be a little bit different, the Forest Green episode. Yes. I'll explain that in a minute. But first up, basically, in fact, no, let's explain now. So basically, what we've done, we're going to start trying every now and then to get opposition fans on to discuss
from other podcasts,
and things like that, to discuss the games coming ahead. For this one, what we've got is there's a Forest Green podcast called Heaven's Devils. And it's not just 2 Forest Green fans from Gloucestershire talking about it. It's 2 Forest Green fans from New York City, USA. They've adopted Forest Green as their team. You'll when you listen to the clip of me having a chat with the 2 guys, you'll get the story behind it. But essentially, they're very eco-minded, these guys, and they follow English football. They follow Arsenal and Fulham, I think it is. And they thought, we want to adopt a team of the low leagues. And they were looking into teams, and they saw the story behind Forest Green and what they do and all the community initiatives that they do. And I've said to them, Dan, we're both fascinated by their new stadium, aren't we? It just looks completely different to anything else you'll see, and we quite like that they're trying to do something a bit different. And they basically said, oh, do you want to appear on the show? We get someone regular on. So, well, we'll get you on our show as well. So we're going to... I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I might have to edit down a little bit, but we're basically going to play a clip of that before me and Dan or Mike talk about the Forest Green game. It's going to be an interesting game, that one, isn't it, I think? Because it's really proper promotion 6-pointer very early on, isn't it?
It is, but when you look at our record at Forest Green, we're unbeaten in 4 trips.
I did,
8 trips, I think it was.
You know what? I let them give a little spiel about they think they were going to win, and when they were finished, I said, "I hate to break it to you, lads, but we've never lost at Forest Green." And they were like, "Oh, great!"
Is it 4 wins and 4 defeats now? I think
something like that.
Sorry, 4 wins and 4 draws in 8 trips or something.
Yep, something like that. So we've got a hell of a good record there, to be fair. So we're going to do something a bit different for that one. I'm going to be appearing on their podcast, so I'll post a link up to that. You can have a listen to me rabbiting on. I talked for about 30-40 minutes, so they're going to try and edit it down to 10 minutes, I think, somehow. God knows how they'll do it, bless them. That'll be coming up. And also, I had a small 30-second clip on the Sky Sports EFL podcast this weekend. They asked me to contribute something towards that, so give that a listen if you get the chance. If you've got any feedbacks or comments about the episode or anything we've done really, or want to make any suggestions for stuff you want us to talk about, get in contact. All the usual places. So we're on Twitter at Brunton Bugle. Email bruntonbugle@gmail.com. We're on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group. We're always on there talking, and we've had a few suggestions on there from people what they wanted to talk about. We're potentially going to do a special about the 80s, aren't we? We've had a few people asking about that.
We need to get sorted for these. We've got that many specials lined up, and
I'm getting dog abuse from my brother as well because I keep saying we're going to be doing
potential sort of ex-players and we're not going to drop names yet until we're all confirmed.
No,
but
we've got a very special one to start, I think.
Some of the ones we've got lined up are superb.
Excellent. They're going to be great. If you haven't already, remember you can subscribe to the podcast via all good podcast apps. I mean, you probably have if you listen to us every chance you have. Whether it's Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, any podcast app like that. If you search for Brunton Bugle, you're probably going to find us. If you can't, on the one you like to use, let me know and I will try and get a spot on there, because usually there's a way around it and way to get it sorted.
Yeah. And obviously, when you do subscribe, when we drop the new issues, they're automatically there for you to download.
Exactly. And if you can give us a review as well, like a 5-star review, that way more people get to hear about us and we move up the football podcast charts and things like that, or stuff like that. It'd be really great. The world's map of listeners, Dan, I'm afraid to break it to you, I don't think there's a new country on.
Disappointed.
Very disappointing. But our listener in Brunei has listened 3 times now.
Well, also, the Formula 1 season finished at the weekend, because we suspect there may be someone involved in Formula 1 listening, don't we? Possibly. Because some of the venues sort of seem to match up.
They certainly do. Obviously, Bahrain was the obvious one. We had a few there.
Yeah. It was maybe Lewis when he was on his isolation.
Indeed.
Well, it could have been, because we were due to play Stevenage.
Exactly. Yeah. You never know. As well as that, you've got Turkey. We've got a listener back in Turkey again. We've got Denmark. Well, I think we know who Denmark is.
We know who Denmark is.
Yeah, that loon will be definitely listening. No doubt about that. Chile, Canada, Ireland, all the usual places. Our Luxembourg listeners still listening in. Our Norway listeners still listening in. So
we know who some of you are, but some of you are complete mysteries. Get in touch. Get in touch.
Tell us how you're following the Blues from abroad. We really want to know about it. It's really interesting to hear how fans, because it is probably similar to the way we've been following it for a lot of the season. So
it's probably even a special we could do in the off season. We could get 1 or 2 of our international Blues on for a quick chat about why.
Yeah, let's get.
So if that appeals, get in touch. We'll get in touch.
Indeed. Well, that's it for this episode. We'll be back later in the week for the Forest Green preview. Dan, good to catch up with you. Maybe catch up with you after the game on Tuesday from a social distance, we should say. We'll have to wait.
Yeah, it should be good. Should be
good. So cheers. Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.